Hey guys, this is Kevin at ChristianPhotoshops.com, and today we have a brand new Photoshop tutorial, and it's going to be on how to create this picture right here. Now, I made this picture a couple months ago, had a really fun time with it. A lot of people asked me how I made this picture, how I got all these effects in there, and so I wanted to show you kind of step by step how I created it. Now, I called this picture Distracted Bible Study because it's got a woman, it's got a woman in here, and she is surrounded by God's Word. This is the Bible. And so at the same time that she's surrounded by God's Word, she's also distracted by all this technology going on. So if you look in here, she's got a cell phone that she's looking at, and there's a laptop over here, and there's a cup of coffee, and there's a pile of books, and there's even a TV. And all this stuff is going on. So I kind of wanted to juxtapose being surrounded by God's Word, but also being surrounded by distractions at the same time, and kind of where your priorities are going to be. So that was the idea of the picture, and I had a good time making it, and I wanted to show you exactly how I made it. So what we're going to do for this tutorial is I'm not going to just go back and remake everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all of the layers that I used, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck all of them, and so everything will be invisible, and then I'll just build it back up layer by layer, and you can kind of see step by step how this picture was created. So obviously, if you're going to make a picture like this, you have to go out and take some pictures. And so that's the first thing I did is I went and took a picture of my wife, who's the model in this case. And so this is nothing fancy. This is just her in the living room. And so she's laying down on the ground, which would eventually be the pages of the Bible. But she's just laying on the ground, and she's got a cell phone in her hand, and there's a laptop and a cup of coffee and some books. And this is actually just a computer monitor, but we're going to make it look like a TV. And so she's surrounded by all of these electronics. And so I took it, I just used natural light. I just used the light that was in the room. But I also did a few other things. So if you look here where the laptop is, you can see this blue kind of light coming off, and it's hitting her right in the side. And the way I got that is there's just a small light right in here on the laptop. It's just a small light with a blue. It's just got a blue gel on it, and it's just shining directly on her skin or on her clothes. Same thing up here with the monitor or the TV. There's just a blue light right in front of it, and it's just casting a nice blue light down onto the top of her head. And the cell phone was also turned on, and it was up to the maximum brightness, and so it's shining down on her face as well. So there's the picture of her. Very simple. You don't need a fancy studio. Just take a picture in your living room. It's very easy to do. And then also we needed a picture of a Bible. So here is a picture of a Bible, and this is just taken on a table, and I used just a small stick to hold the pages up. I knew that the stick wasn't going to be in the picture based on where the model's going to be at, so I didn't really mind that too much, but there's just a stick holding the pages up, and then I took a picture, and I took a picture at a pretty high aperture. I don't remember what it was. It's probably f16 or f20. I wanted to make sure it was in focus in most parts of the pages. So here's the picture of the Bible, and there's a picture of my wife, and so I've got those pictures. And now I'm ready to go ahead and get started. So let me go ahead and make all of these invisible. All right, so everything's invisible. We have our white canvas, and I needed a background for the picture. So here's my background that I used. This is actually a combination of a couple pictures. So I used a picture of grass, for example. This is just a picture of a grass field. And then I needed a picture of a sunset, so I just blended those together. Then I drew some mist on the sides, just kind of make a little bit more of a hazy atmosphere type thing. So there's our background. The background's not really the focal point of the picture, but I did want to have a good solid background. And then once I had that going, I was ready to go to the next step. And the next step would be to add the Bible into the canvas. So here's the picture of the Bible. All I did was I cut it out of the scene, and also added a layer mask down at the bottom. Let me show you that real quick. So it's sitting in grass, and so what I did is I just used a grass brush, and I would paint down here at the bottom and just kind of get rid of these hard edges of the Bible. So here is with the layer mask. You can just see all these little foliage brushes that I used, and just painted out part of the Bible so it looks like it's sitting in the grass a little bit more naturally. Okay, so we've got our Bible in there. It looks like it's kind of floating on the grass, though. Since there's a sunset in the background, it would make a lot more sense if there was a shadow being cast by the Bible. So I made sure I drew a shadow. This is nothing more than just a dark gray, brush, just painting it right underneath the Bible and then changing that blend mode to multiply. So that's really all I did to create the shadow. And so that makes the Bible look like it's actually sitting more naturally in the grass because it's backlit and it's casting a shadow in the front part. All right, so once we have the Bible, we can go ahead and add the model in. So here is the picture of my wife. And let me show you. Let me zoom in a little bit. First of all, you can see that stick that I had holding up the Bible. I knew that there was going to be a model going right in front of it. So that's why I kind of put that there so I don't have to go in and try to clone the stick out and kind of do some editing. I can do that, but I didn't want to do that. So I just put the model right over the stick, and now it's gone. So what I did, I just use a pen tool, and I just cut her out and made sure I cut out all of the electronics and the books and everything. And then I also added some coffee into the coffee cup, so I just painted brown and then painted some white mist coming up. So that was pretty easy. And then the next thing I did was I added a little bit of levels adjustment. She's a little bit too bright for inside the Bible, so I went ahead and just made her a little bit darker. And I just made her darker on the edges, so like her feet and her legs are darker, and but I didn't make like this part dark, or I didn't make her face dark. So I really just made the parts of the images that aren't going to be lit, I just kind of made those darker. So there we go. We got the model inside. Now, she doesn't have any shadows underneath her, so again, it looks like she's just kind of floating there. So I went ahead and painted the shadows. Let me show you real quick how I did that. So the shadows are pretty easy to do. What you want to do is just take a black brush or maybe a dark gray brush and change it to multiply, and you just want to paint everywhere that's underneath the model or any of the objects. So you want to start off kind of soft. And then what I like to do is I do multiple layers of shadows. I don't do all of my shadows in one layer. I kind of build them up. So I do soft shadows, and then I do kind of harder shadows. And I just kind of try to figure out where the light is and which way the direction of the shadows would go. And I just keep building up those shadows until it looks realistic. And another important thing is if you're going to have a model inside of a giant Bible, she's also going to have shadows up here on the top pages. Since we have a light source over here at the TV monitor and the laptop and everything, you're going to have shadows that hit the top of the pages. So I wanted to make sure that was in there too. So here is the shadow on the top. But once you have all the shadows in there, that's really going to make it look, you're going to make the cell a lot better, that this looks more realistic. So here is without the shadows, and then here is with the shadows. Now, I'm pretty happy with how it looks that she's in there. She's got the shadows on her, and everything looks great. And there's one little problem we see here. We see our little cord coming out of the TV or coming out of the monitor, and it just kind of cuts off right there. So that looks a little weird. So I wanted to make sure I drew the cords out. So that was pretty simple. All you want to do is just take a black, let me zoom in so you can see it. You just want to take a black brush and just... you want to do the same size. So whatever size this was, whatever pixel size this was, just get that size of a brush in the same color, which is black. And I just drew out a black cord that just went over the page and then through the grass. And also add a little shadow underneath it because it would definitely cast a small shadow if you had a cord there. Same thing for the laptop over here. The laptop didn't have a cord. But I did want to make it look like there was a cord. So here's without the cord, and then here's the cord just painted in. Same thing, just take a black round brush and just paint a line, and then also painted just a little shadow underneath it to make it look a little bit more realistic. Okay, so we've got the Bible, we've got the model, we've got the electronics, we've got the cord. The next step I wanted to do is add some blue light to it. So these pieces of electronics, the screens are going to be kind of displaying a bluish light, and so what I want to do is get some blue lights going around the pages. So without the blue light, it's kind of warm in there. It doesn't really match the light source of the electronics. So what I did was I just took a blue brush and just painted some blue all around the pages. This is underneath the model and underneath all of the electronics. So I just painted a nice blue color all on the pages, and then I changed that blend mode to overlay. And so what that does is it just kind of cools the atmosphere down inside of the book. And I thought it worked out pretty well because the outside of the book is nice and warm, and it's nice of a yellowish gold, and then you have the sunset in the background. So anytime you have like these contrasting colors, like a warm sunset and like a blue inside, they work very well together. So I did want to do kind of that blue and gold type of working together, those colors working together. So after I've got the blue ambient light going on, I wanted to work on the light coming off of these electronics. So here are my electronic lights. What I did was one at a time. We'll start with the TV. So I just painted blue. I just painted a nice blue light coming off of the TV. So I made sure that it didn't go over the edge. You can see what it looks like here. I made sure that I painted out the edge of the screen, but I just wanted some light blue, and this is just a normal, this is not any any screen or overlay blend mode. This is just straight blue paint just being painted right there, and I just changed the opacity down to 37 or something percent. So there's 100% what it looks like, and then there's about 37 where I had it. Also with the laptop, same thing, just painted some blue coming straight off of the laptop screen, and then the phone as well. So there are my electronic lights. And so this is just using a brush and just painting blue lights where they would be appropriate. So just like that. Now once I had the blue lights going, I wanted to amplify these glows just a little bit. They look fine. Excuse me. They look fine like that, but I wanted to just amplify the glows up just a little bit. So I did my electronic glows here. And what I did was I used a color dodge blend mode. So I've got the group is actually in color dodge, and then I started painting some blues down here. So I used a blue brush and just painted around the screen of the monitor of the TV, and then also down here on the laptop. So there's before and after, and it just adds a little bit more of a stronger glow, just more of a pop. And also to the phone. So I added some bright blue glows coming straight off of the phone and straight onto the face. And so here's before and after with those. So it looks fine like that. It's nice and subtle. I wanted it just to pop a little bit more. So there's the amplified glows we have there. And the color dodge blend mode does great with that. All right. Most of the picture looks great now, so now we're going to start working on the overall picture. So here's my sun glows layer. So what I did with that is I wanted the sky to be a lot more orange, so I just painted some orange and yellow hues up on the top of the picture, and then I just made those in like an overlay or screen mode, and made them nice and warm. So the sky is extremely warm now for the sunset, and then I added just a nice little sun glare, lens flare type thing right there where the sun would be. And that just added a little bit more pop to it. So there's before and after with my sun glows. All I did was just warm up the sky and just make that sun pop out a little bit. And then finally, after everything was done, I went to my light effects. So I did several things here. First thing I did was I made the whole image a lot darker. It's just way too bright. So I just made it a lot darker. Make sure I didn't make the sun darker. So I just made the bottom part of the picture darker and the edges darker. And I just masked out the sun. And then I did another layer very similar to that. This is I used a gradient map, and then I made sure my gradient map was black to white, and I changed that to multiply. And that just really enhances the contrast a lot. When you do a black to white and change it to multiply, the contrast is a lot heavier. And then I masked out the sun and part of the glows down here. So here's before, and then here's after, just making it a lot darker. Then I wanted to add a little bit more blue down here. The blue was good just like that, but I wanted to add even more blue. So I added some blue down here to my lights, and that just made it pop a little bit better. And then finally, we enhanced the colors even more. So we added more yellow to the sun and more blue to the Bible. And so that's what that looks like before and after. And just a simple overlay blend mode with the colors orange and then blue. So that's what that looks like. So here's my overall light effects. So it was just too bright and I wanted to saturate the colors a little bit more. So that's what it looks like right there. And that was pretty much it. So a really fun project to do. I would say I spent about 3 to 4 hours on it, and just had a wonderful time making it. I hope you learned something from here. Let's go ahead and build this thing up real quick one more time, and then we'll be done. So I had the background, and then I added the Bible, and then I added the shadow of the Bible, then I added the model, then I added the shadows of the model, and then I added the chords to the electronics. Then I added some blue light. And then we did some electronics, the light from the electronics coming out. And then we added the sun and the sky a little bit warmer. And then we did some final light effects. So there you go. There's step by step how I created this picture. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you learned a little bit from it. I hope you're able to take these tools and techniques and go out and do your own project. And if you do your own project, please share them with me. I'd love to see what you can come up with. Be creative, try to be a little conceptual, but be creative, have some fun with it. And like I said, you don't need a studio. Just go in your living room and take a picture and just have a good time with it. But that's our tutorial. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch this, and I just appreciate you supporting our site. And we got some more tutorials coming up in the near future, so check out our website for updates, and we will catch you again, guys, pretty soon. All right, appreciate it.